जनप्रियं प्रियकरं निर्मत्सरं पूजितं नानाशास्त्रविचारणैकनिपुणं सद्धर्मसंस्थापकम्.
And now chapter 6, How to Discharge Devotional Service.
Mannam saranyakanam nana shastra vicharanam kanikanam saddharma samastapakam.
Srila Rupa Goswami states that his elder brother, Sanatan Goswami, has compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas for the guidance of the Vaishnavas, and therein has mentioned many rules and regulations to be followed by the Vaishnavas. Some of them are very important and prominent, and Srila Rupa Goswami will now mention those very important items for our benefit. The purport of this statement is that Srila Rupa Goswami proposes to mention only basic principles, not details. For example, a basic principle is that one has to accept a spiritual master. Exactly how one follows the instructions of his spiritual master is considered a detail. For example, if one is following the instruction of his spiritual master, and that instruction is different from the instructions of another spiritual master, this is called detailed information. But the basic principle of acceptance of a spiritual master is good everywhere, although the details may be different. Srila Rupa Goswami does not wish to enter into details here, but wants to place before us only the principles. He mentions the basic principles as follows. 1. Accepting the shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. 2. Becoming initiated by the spiritual master and learning how to discharge devotional service from him. 3. Obeying the orders of the spiritual master with faith and devotion. 4. Following in the footsteps of great acharyas or teachers under the direction of the spiritual master. 5. Inquiring from the spiritual master how to advance in Krishna consciousness. 6. Being prepared to give up anything material for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. This means that when we are engaged in the devotional service of Krishna, we must be prepared to give up something which we may not like to give up. And also we have to accept something which we may not like to accept. 7. Residing in a sacred place of pilgrimage like Dwarka or Vrindavan. 8. Accepting only what is necessary, or dealing with the material world only as far as is necessary. 9. Observing the fasting day on Ekadashi. And 10. Worshipping sacred trees like the banyan tree. These 10 items are preliminary necessities for beginning the discharge of devotional service in regulative principles. In the beginning, if a neophyte devotee observes the above-mentioned 10 principles, surely he will quickly make good advancement in Krishna consciousness. The next set of instructions is listed as follows. 1. One should rigidly give up the company of non-devotees. 2. One should not instruct a person who is not desirous of accepting devotional service. 3. One should not be very enthusiastic about constructing costly temples or monasteries. 4. One should not try to read too many books, nor should one develop the idea of earning his livelihood by lecturing on or professionally reciting Srimad Bhagavatam or Bhagavad Gita. 5. One should not be neglectful in ordinary dealings. 6. One should not be under the spell of lamentation in loss or jubilation in gain. 7. One should not disrespect the demigods. 8. One should not give unnecessary trouble to any living entity. 9. One should carefully avoid the various offenses in chanting the holy name of the Lord or in worshiping the deity in the temple. 10. One should be very intolerant toward the blasphemy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, or his devotees. Without following the above-mentioned 10 principles, one cannot properly elevate himself to the platform of sadhana bhakti, or devotional service in practice. Altogether, Srila Rupa Goswami mentions 20 items, and all of them are very important. Out of the 20, the first 3, namely, accepting the shelter of a bona fide spiritual master, taking initiation from him, and serving him with respect and reverence, are the most important. The next important items are as follows. 1. One should decorate the body with tilak, which is the sign of the Vaishnavas. The idea is that as soon as a person sees these marks on the body of the Vaishnav, he will immediately remember Krishna. Lord Chaitanya said that a Vaishnav is he who, when seen, reminds one of Krishna. Therefore, it is essential that a Vaishnav mark his body with tilak to remind others of Krishna. 2. In marking such tilak, sometimes one may write Hare Krishna on the body. 3. One should accept flowers and garlands that have been offered to the deity and the spiritual master, and put them on one's body. 4. One should learn to dance before the deity. 5. One should learn to bow down immediately upon seeing the deity or the spiritual master. 6. As soon as one visits a temple of Lord Krishna, one must stand up. Seven, when the deity is being borne for a stroll in the street, a devotee should immediately follow the procession. In this connection, it may be noted that in India, especially in Vishnu temples, the system is that apart from the big deity who is permanently situated in the main area of the temple, there is a set of smaller deities which are taken in procession in the evening. In some temples, it is the custom to hold a big procession in the evening with a band playing and a nice big umbrella over the deities, who sit on decorated thrones on the cart or palanquin, which is carried by devotees. The deities come out onto the street and travel in the neighborhood, while the people of the neighborhood come out to offer prasad. The residents of the neighborhood all follow the procession, so it is a very nice scene. When the deity is coming out, the servitors in the temple put forward the daily accounts before them. So much was the collection, so much was the expenditure. The whole idea is that the deity is considered to be the proprietor of the whole establishment, and all the priests and other people taking care of the temple are considered to be the servants of the deity. This system is very, very old and is still followed. So therefore, it is mentioned here that when the deity is on stroll, the people should follow behind. Eight. A devotee must visit a Vishnu temple at least once or twice every day, morning and evening. In Vrindavan, this system is followed very strictly. All the devotees in town go every morning and evening to visit different temples. Therefore, during these times, there are considerable crowds all over the city. There are about 5,000 temples in Vrindavan city. Of course, it is not possible to visit all the temples, but there are at least 12 very big and important temples, which were started by the Goswamis and which should be visited. 9. One must circumambulate the temple building at least 3 times. In every temple, there is an arrangement to go around the temple at least 3 times. Some devotees go around more than 3 times, 10 times, 15 times, according to their vows. The Goswamis used to circumambulate Govardhan Hill. One should also circumambulate the whole Vrindavan area. 10. One must worship the deity in the temple according to the regulative principles. Offering arti and prasad, decorating the deity, etc., these things must be observed regularly. 11. One must render personal service to the deities. 12. One must sing. 13. One must perform sankirtan. 14. One must chant. 15. One must offer prayers. 16. One must recite notable prayers. 17. One must taste Mahaprasad, or food from the very plate offered before the deities. 18. One must drink Charanamrita, water from the bathing of the deities, which is offered to guests. 19. One must smell the incense and flowers offered to the deity. 20. One must touch the lotus feet of the deity. 21. One must see the deity with great devotion. 22. One must offer arti at different times. 23. One must hear about the Lord and his pastimes from Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and similar books. 24. One must pray to the deity for his mercy. 25. One should remember the deity. 26. One should meditate upon the deity. 27. One should render some voluntary service. 28. One should think of the Lord as one's friend. 29. One should offer everything to the Lord. 30. One should offer a favorite article such as food or a garment. 31. One should take all kinds of risks and perform all endeavors for Krishna's benefit. 32. In every condition, one should be a surrendered soul. 33. One should pour water on the tulsi tree. 34. One should regularly hear Srimad Bhagavatam and similar literature. 35. One should live in a sacred place like Mathura, Vrindavan, or Dwarka. 36. One should offer service to Vaishnavas or devotees. 37. One should arrange one's devotional service according to one's means. 38. In the month of Kartik, October and November, one should make arrangements for special services. 39. During Janmashtami, the time of Krishna's appearance in this world, one should observe a special service. 40. One should do whatever is done with great care and devotion for the deity. 41. One should relish the pleasure of Bhagavatam reading among devotees and not among outsiders. 42. One should associate with devotees who are considered more advanced. 43. one should chant the holy name of the Lord. 44. One should live in the jurisdiction of Mathura. Now the total regulative principles come to an aggregate of 64 items. As we have mentioned, the first are the primary 10 regulative principles. Then come the secondary 10 regulative principles, and added to these are 44 other activities. So altogether there are 64 items for discharging the regulative practice of devotional service. Out of these 64 items, 5 items, namely worshipping the deity, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, associating among the devotees, Sankirtan, and living in Mathura, are very important. The 64 items of devotional service should include all of our activities of body, mind, and speech. As stated in the beginning, the regulative principle of devotional service enjoins that all of our senses must be employed in the service of the Lord. Exactly how they can be thus employed is described in the above 64 items. Now Srila Rupa Goswami will give evidence from different scriptures supporting the authenticity of many of these points.